Hello and welcome to another DMI Team Talk. This is Sean Kenny here, working over in membership at DMI. And today we are looking at the topic of personalization, why personalization is important and becoming even more important as the next few years come. It's growing and growing, and we're going to look at actually some stats around that. So today we're basically going to look at what it is, why it's important. We're going to look at some examples, and we're hopefully just going to give you a sense of anyone who's kind of a beginner or new to it or kind of has heard about it but doesn't know what it is. We want to give you a better picture of exactly what it is and where it's going in the next few years. So to start, let's look at a definition. In digital marketing, personalization is the ability to tailor messaging to individual customers. That's the essence of it. It delivers personal experiences based on a consumer's previous actions, purchase history, demographics, their behavior, including here their browsing behavior, and actually any other data that we can bring together and find out more about the actual consumer. So that's pretty much a dictionary definition of it. The goal of it, though, is basically to engage the consumer at any stage of the funnel and therefore improve their prospect of purchase or sign up or whatever it is that your business is looking to ultimately do. And we can think of it, if you want to boil it down to a one-line explanation, it's one-to-one marketing. And one other thing to flag before we move forward, if you're reading around this topic on your own, you may see personalization and customization used interchangeably as terms, but actually they're not. Customization is really where the customer customizes the product, okay, and they can kind of tailor it to their needs. And there is a lot of that going on online, particularly with e-commerce, where people can put their own name on an item or they can tailor a service in some way, and that's great. And it kind of feeds in as a subsection of personalization in some ways, but it's not exactly personalization. So let's look at what personalization is, but we'll start with some stats to give all of this context, why it's important, where it's going. So 71% of consumers prefer personalized ads. So things like retargeting ads on Facebook, which we'll actually look at today, or ads that are specifically relevant to them, that are personalized. 63% of marketers struggle with personalization, according to recent research, meaning basically that putting personalization in different stages of the funnel is a bit of a challenge for them, or it might be that their resources are a bit of a challenge, or that it's just new. A report from 4 years ago now in the US found that 41% of people switched to a different rival company due to a lack of trust, but also poor personalization. And that could also be categorized as a poor understanding of the consumer by the company. 77% of consumers have chosen or recommended or paid more for the brand or the service or the product that goes the extra step further and personalizes the experience. And personalized home page promotions, you can see here a big influence. 85% of consumers buy where that experience is personalized, such as the shopping cart or recommendations. We're going to look at some of these now very quickly. And it influences 92% of shoppers online in some way. And that might be increasing their chance to purchase or just a better customer satisfaction score. So let's look at the very brief evolution, because personalization is not exactly new. What we're talking about today is personalization in digital marketing, but the concept of it has been around for quite some time. Anyone that has walked into a store with great customer service in the past, you get that personalized approach, and you could technically put that under the umbrella of personalization. But let's kind of look very briefly at how personalization looked before the kind of digital age. So marketing segmentation, that's been around for quite some time now, where retailers would segment customers into different groups, almost like buyer personas, and they'd have a few general details, maybe that they were male or female, they were from a certain location, they were a new or returning customer. That would help the retailer kind of maybe change the experience in some way and make it more relevant to them, or only target them with certain messages. So if we look at the next point here, you might be familiar with this, particularly online now, but you bought this, so you will like this. But we have seen that even in shopping centers and in supermarkets for quite some time. That phrase kind of relates or goes all the way back to things like shopping cart analysis. So supermarkets always have, in kind of recent decades, looked at what people buy and what they buy together. and then place those things together in store, and therefore kind of created an experience where people could go in and kind of feel like the store was a little bit better suited to them. So that kind of comes under, personalization. But we see even online now that you still find this very highly helpful kind of tactic of putting other products in front of you that you're likely to like. So the third point here is worth mentioning too: detailed data-based personalization. Like today, the kind of evolution that we've had of data collection is kind of really what we're talking about and where that's going forward. So businesses can now customize experiences based on people's needs or their search history or their interests or preferences, and any data that was collected while they've been on websites or even browsing online in general. So let's start with a few kind of areas where personalization is today taking effect and making a big difference, and then we might have a quick look at where it's going towards the end. So targeted emails, now these have been around for quite some time, but the sophistication of them is improving all the time. And if we look at targeting emails, getting a better understanding of your key audience to increase the relevancy of the content is basically key. And one way to start collecting customer information is through sign-up forms. So we've all experienced sign-up forms. They can collect, some of them are more detailed than others, but they can collect your name, your own email, obviously, your mobile number, your location, and maybe the more detailed ones will look at what company you work for or any other interests that you have and so on. And this is all for the purpose of segmenting email campaigns and only emailing people with relevant information. Automated emails, they have also been around for some time, but again, they are becoming more sophisticated too. So emails, when you abandon cart on a website, you can automatically get an email. It might arrive 1 hour after you've done it, 3 hours the next day, depends on the service of the product. Browse abandonment, this is relatively new. It's where you've been looking at a particular page on a website and they can automate an email to you if they have your details already. Post-purchase, or even a summary of what you were looking at on the website. And all of those feed into a personalized experience because it shows the consumer that you, the company, have been paying attention to what it is that they like or they're interested in. And then, of course, demographic and interest-based personalization emails. Now, these have really been kind of the staple or the original segmentation for email campaigns, where you simply send emails to different groups based on their location. Maybe living in one country makes a particular offer not relevant and so on, or being of a certain age makes a certain product not relevant to you. So you can segment out, of course, by demographics, but the point here is with more data collection, specifically in the last few years, we have more demographic information. You can even have details about, specifically what age people are, whether they have children, things of this nature that really allow you to hone in and personalize an email. So continuing on email, session-based personalized emails. So that's inserting products and also with the user's name, images, dates, and things of that nature into either the subject line or the main body and personalizing that email. And we have an example here we'll discuss in a moment, but we also have recommendation-based emails, and that's where maybe a customer has previously purchased, but you're recommending something else off the back of that. Or maybe they were browsing and you're recommending a kind of suite of products that might suit their needs. And this screenshot here I have, and we have others to look at that are slightly larger, but this one is bringing in a few things. This is someone who has already purchased a printer or a copier here. So you can see the name is tailored to the person. You can see that they're acknowledging the product the person bought before, and then they're recommending other kind of cross-sell opportunities or things you might need for that product. So it becomes a personalized experience. If we look at social media marketing, there's a lot of ways to personalize. We're actually going to look at them on the next slides, but things like retargeting, for example, where you're showing a person an ad of something that they already viewed on your website. Or even now with things like the Facebook content tools that you use to publish posts, they actually allow you to only show one particular audience or location or demographic, the organic page posts that you're going to do. So in that way, you can actually personalize messages too. If we move on to chatbots, and they can also be found on social media, chatbots, particularly these simple ones that I've taken the example from. This menu button-based simple chatbot is even able to hold a somewhat coherent conversation with someone and personalize the experience. But of course, as we discussed, I believe in another Team Talk or webinar, AI and machine learning are really making the capabilities for fluent conversation possible now, where people really feel like they're being listened to as they kind of come down your funnel and they're on your social pages, or they're just finding out about your company or your product or your service for the first time. So that kind of feeds into personalization too. And I just mentioned it a moment ago under social media, because that's where it's most relevant, but you have Google display ads where you can retarget and things of that nature. But retargeting is coming on leaps and bounds. The ability to actually show people back what they were viewing on the website. And not only that, if we take this specific example, this is a dynamic product ad from Facebook, and you will have seen these. They usually show like carousels with multiple images, and what you can do is, if the person only looked at maybe 2 products, you can have those 2 as the first 2 slides in your carousel in the retargeting ad, and then you can have similar images in there based off what other people would typically purchase as well. So you can really customize that experience. Now we move on to kind of more broader ideas and pull in some examples here. So I have one here from Netflix, but first, just to explain, product recommendations, they're really, really key in giving people a personalized experience. Ultimately, what the consumer wants, if you think about it, is the quickest path, or the path with least resistance to get the product or service they actually want. Now, the last part of that statement is really key too. But in the case of companies like Netflix, they try to make it as easy as possible for you to find what you like within a wealth of, I was going to say information or products, but in this case, obviously, kind of content. So these types of campaigns here, as it says, they use data collection to determine what type of product, service, or offer that you, the user, are interested in based on your history. And Netflix is a really good example, and it's an example I've used because a lot of people will have used Netflix and they will have seen this. So they have a whole section here, because you watched this particular movie, here's other movies that you might like. And even the recently added tab here, or header, that's pulling in things that it is guessing they would really like for you. And I've put in a stat here about this type of recommendation tactic. So when it's used correctly, product recommendations increase the average number of items in the cart by 68%, which is massive. That's like, kind of almost doubling your sales, and increase conversion rates by more than 3 times, right? So, you can see the power of this stuff when it really works well for the consumer. If we look at some other examples of how you would go about, customization and positioning it, these are similar to the last slide, but they are nuanced. So bestsellers, product recommendations, that's where it's actually the simplest form of a recommendation, where you take your best-selling product and put it in front of the customer, put it under their nose, and see if it's something for them too. You might also like product recommendations, which you've seen a lot of online, particularly with e-commerce. That's where you look at what people have purchased in the past, or people in a particular demographic viewing the website have purchased in the past, and you kind of add that in and put it in front of them and simplify their shopping experience. Using product recommendations for cross-selling is another one. So offering complementary products helps increase the average order value by essentially educating the customer and improving the kind of selection that they've already made. So getting them to add in things that they might want, or that go with that product. And then also here, again, it's nuanced, but it is different. What customers ultimately buy after viewing this item is another thing you will see online too. And it's actually, it's a bit of using a bit of social kind of clout to kind of say, like, here's what other people like, and you kind of might have that kind of FOMO, fear of missing out kind of factor, and it gets you thinking, well, why do people like these products so much? But ultimately, it also creates a personalized experience in many ways. And then if we're specifically looking at website experiences, I've put 3 points here of kind of the most common things you can do. So website personalization, that's where you actually have a different version of your website depending on who's coming onto that page. Now, that is for companies and businesses that maybe have a little bit more budget or time or resources, but you can alter the site based on who's viewing it, essentially. As it says here, the tactics would include dynamic content. So the image on the homepage might be different depending on your location, or depending on your device, maybe, or maybe even demographical details. And not just images, but obviously videos, any kind of visuals, and even the price displayed and stuff on the website. We're going to look at some brief examples of that soon. Offers as well, though, you can customize offers to certain locations, so you can think of them offers as personalized, or they can be, I should say. So you can have offers relevant again to one particular country, one particular group, and then you can tailor your website that it's only showed to that particular group. And then inline content, and that's all about how are you educating and motivating your prospects or your customers coming through to your website. So if you can personalize the content that's put in front of them, you can change the featured products that are shown, and you can put different blog posts or information there, as it says here, different downloadable assets or large hero images on any page. So you can basically tailor all that, and that changes the consumer's experience for them, and it becomes personalized. Now we're going to look at some very simple kind of examples that kind of bring all of what I've just said together and kind of show it to you in a very kind of obvious way. So personalizing default product attributes, okay? And we see in this example we have a shoe on sale, but because the person has come on from a US IP address, the size of the shoe is going to be shown to them in the US sizes. And again, when you think of personalization, think of simplification. A lot of this is actually not just showing customers what they like, but simplifying their experience too. And this kind of illustrates how you could do it with a product like this. And there's no reason you couldn't do that with clothing as well, or different sporting goods and so on. In this case, I'm kind of demonstrating some of the features we talked about product recommendations. So in this case, on Adidas's website, if you're browsing this particular product and you're of a certain demographic where you have website history, they're making suggestions here on how to complete the look. They're suggesting, a t-shirt, a pair of shorts, and a bag. And it might be that they're frequently bought with that item, or that they're actually personalized to that person, based off their browsing history. And here again, we have a few things coming together in this example. So this is from a hiking shoe company. But what they're doing is when the customer has come back onto the website without purchasing, one of the first things they see is actually a landing page tailored to them, and it brings in their name, as you can see here, Jack in this case, and it's showing the product that they were previously looking at and offering a discount, personalizing a discount to them, while kind of showing the sizes there, again introducing simplicity to kind of show the person what it is that they want to see, and making the whole experience a lot simpler. And then again, just a very simple example here, but this is an example of a retargeting email. So it looks like you left an item in your shopping cart. It's personalized back to you, has the item. It kind of reminds you obviously of your experience, but also you can personalize it, bring in your name here directly to your email, and give it that personalized one-to-one touch. So kind of as we're wrapping up, let's look at the benefits of personalization. What are kind of main benefits? Well, I've put this figure at the top because it's quite impressive. 89% of e-commerce enterprises have invested in personalization. So the vast majority, if we look at 2021, the vast majority of businesses, and these would most likely be larger businesses within these, but they've already invested in some way in personalization. So if you're sitting there watching this and you haven't in any way, you're in the minority, the small minority. But if we look at kind of key areas, repeat purchases, and that's what it's really key for. So 44% of consumers will become repeat buyers after seeing a personalized ad or having a personalized experience of some kind. Boosting the actual ROI of your business. So advanced personalization offers a $20 return for every $1 spent. Now that figure is an average, and it is taken from the US, and it is from one particular survey, but a 20x boost on ROI is obviously massive. It's transformational for a business, and it will depend on what it is that you do and that you offer, but know that there is a significant chance that you could really make a big difference to kind of what you're taking in as a business by simplifying the process and by putting products in front of people more readily, easily, that are designed for them or suit them based on their history and their the data that you have on them. Decrease customer acquisition expenses. Okay, so that's the cost of actually getting a sale over the line. That can be decreased by up to 50% when it's personalized. And that's because, again, I've used the word a few times, but you're simplifying the customer journey. You're putting less friction, less clicks, less barriers in front of them actually purchasing the product. And that's what's bringing down the customer acquisition expenses in this case. It's less money spent on retargeting, it's less money even maybe spent on, brand awareness ads, anything like that. So moving on to the fourth point, enhancing customer loyalty. So, since you as a brand who is investing in personalization can offer customers exactly what they want, and it comes back to a lot of points that I made, but you're actually giving the customer a more simplified experience to get ultimately what it is that they want. And before I kind of leave you, I'll just direct you off to some places where you could find tools if you want to, research doing this for your business. So HubSpot have a lot of really good tools that you can integrate into many different platforms like Facebook or, onto your website kind of with your blog and keywords and stuff like that. They make it very easy for you to put a personalized approach in front of people. The same is true of Marketo and Salesforce. If we look at HubSpot, they actually have smart content features kind of ready out of the box for you to implement. They deliver content, as it says here, specifically tailored to where a prospect is in the buyer process. So they can actually tailor the personalization depending on where the person is in the funnel. And as it says here, or they can actually change the content targeted to people the very first time they visit. And again, that would be based on what we looked at the start of the presentation, demographical stuff or data captured. Marketo, as it says here, they have rules to convert the majority of anonymous visitors to a site based on previous interactions with site content. So that actually gives you an advantage there because you're using Marketo to get more information about the person and then have Marketo help you personalize the experience. And Salesforce, they have, as it is here, on the Einstein AI feature for personalization. And that is, we looked at, kind of product recommendations that helps you do that and automate that process. And then there's so many of these that I've just put in a few more of the mainstream ones to help with personalization. Shopify have a lot of great plugins, as do Wix and WordPress. If you own a website and you're thinking, well, I'd like to be able to do something like this and test it straight away, check plugins. Plugins are where you'll make that difference. Where you can have a pop-up email form, or you can actually put a lot of features in place based on data capture and retargeting. Remember, retargeting is one of the key areas of personalization, and setting up a retargeting campaign on somewhere like Facebook or even LinkedIn or kind of some of those main kind of visual channels, like even on YouTube, you can set up retargeting video ads. Things of that nature really create a personalized experience for people too. Now, this kind of brings us to the conclusion of this kind of whistle-stop tour of personalization. But what I leave you with just before I go is the DMI membership library. So first of all, if you simply want to learn more about this topic or more about digital marketing in general, you can actually go over and get a free trial of our membership platform. So what we do is we have a vast array of content in there. It's for not just students who are actually studying a course with us, but even we have people who are just members and they just keep all their digital marketing learning up to date, or indeed learning about digital marketing for the first time. But you can actually take a trial here for free. So you can just go to digitalmarketinginstitute.com/students for a free trial. All you'll need to do is enter in an email. And while you're there, if you want to specifically learn more about personalization, I've just dropped in just a few brief things. It's kind of the tip of the iceberg, but we have a webinar. We had one recently, personalization, a global trend. I've linked in an article here, which is quite good, about how to inject personalization into your marketing strategy. So it's specific about how to get it into your strategy. And just 2 micro lessons. And anyone who's a member has all these micro lessons in here. There's literally a vast library of them. But there's one on content personalization, and there's one on curation, personalization, and repurposing. And there's actually many more in there relevant to personalization. So I hope the topic of personalization is more clear to anyone watching who was unsure before, or I hope I've kind of sold it to you as something that might be suitable for your business, or you've just learned something new today, and it's been helpful in that sense. But thanks very much for joining us, and I hope to see you for a DMI Team Talk soon.